Welcome to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, where PGA and LPGA players, legends, and the top instructors in the game share their insights and playing lessons. Join Chris every Tuesday night as he talks with the greats of the game. Tonight's show is sponsored by TaylorMade Golf, the PGA Tour Superstore, Golf Pride, 2 Under, Zexio, Sun Mountain Golf Bags, Finn Scooters, making the game more fun, Bionic Gloves, and the Macklemore Club. Experience life above the clouds. Now, here's your host, Chris Mascaro.
Good evening, folks, and thank you for coming back and joining me on Next on the Tee. I'm your host, Chris Mascaro. And my thanks to all of you again for voting for the show and getting us up to number 16 in the Podcast Magazine Hot 50 list for the month of July. Over the last 4 months, you've taken the show from 44 to 39 to 31, and now a big jump up to number 16. Please keep voting by going to podcastmagazine.com and then clicking on Hot 50. I can't thank you all enough. It's been fantastic support. Tonight, we've got a great show on tap for you. Tom Patri is back. We'll talk more about Collin Morikawa with respect to his young career and how closely it matches Tiger's first 2+ years out on tour. We'll also hear TP's thoughts on the differences between Collin Morikawa and his results and Xander Schauffele and his. Plus, how we can both expect to accept and go through pain when we're trying to make a swing change. Got to accept it. Might not be pretty at first, but sticking to the game plan will pay dividends. Looking forward to having TP back with me. He'll join me in a few minutes. Following him, I'll get a return visit from PGA legend Bob Ford. Bob recently retired as the head golf professional at Seminole Golf Club. He did so following the Walker Cup matches this year that were held back in June. We'll talk about those matches. Plus, I want to get Bob's thoughts. I heard a story about Lee Trevino, who was said to challenge anyone to a match up at Oakmont, where Bob was the head golf professional for many, many years, where Trevino would come out and he said he would play from the back tees, and all his challenger needed to have was a putter, because Trevino would concede that they made the green in regulation. The caveat was Trevino could place the ball anywhere on the green for them to putt from. It said Trevino had never lost on a bet like that. I want to hear if that story's true or just a legend. Bob will join me about 25 minutes from now. Following him, I'll get a second visit from PGA Tour legend Tom Purtzer. Tom joined the show back in May and was so much fun, I wanted to get him back on the show as quickly as I could. Tonight, we're going to talk about his amazing hole out from the bunker at the 1991 Colonial Tournament using a putter. He had a downhill lie at the back edge of one of the bunkers, right up against the back lip. It was so amazing, the shot. I mean, he rolls the putt and it goes in. It's so amazing that the course reconstructed the bunker so it would be wider and have a big lip. And I'm guessing they didn't want that shot to happen again. We'll also go back to the 1982 Open Championship and his tie for 4th finish at Royal Troon and his 1991 victory at the World Series of Golf. So really looking forward to having Tom back as part of the show. He'll join me about 45 minutes from now. And then we're going to round out the show with a visit from David Pursell. David is the founder and CEO of FarmLinks at Pursell Farms in Alabama. The course was named the best course you can play in the state of Alabama by several publications. We're typically used to hearing about the courses at the Robert Trent Jones Trail being the best in Alabama. Well, Pursell Farms has topped all of them. We'll hear why when David joins me about an hour from now. So there you have it, folks. More great stories, tips, and information are coming your way tonight on this edition of Next on the Tee. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in and taking the journey with me tonight. Before we get started, I want to remind you about our friends up at the Macklemore. My buddies and I were there for our annual golf trip a few weeks back, and it was amazing. Everything about the place is first class. We had great accommodations. The practice facility is wonderful. The on-premise restaurant, the Craig, has outstanding food and service, and the course lived up to every expectation that we had. I can't say enough good things about the place. Folks, go online to themacklemore.com to see how spectacular the place is for yourself. The golf course is co-designed by our good friends Bill Bergen and Reese Jones, and our friend and PGA Tour caddy Kip Henley has said, outside of Pebble Beach, it's the most beautiful 18th hole he's ever seen. And Golf Digest agreed, oh, by the way, naming it the best finishing hole in America since 2000. See why we're all saying that by checking out the course and the resort online at themacklemore.com. And folks, this segment of the show is brought to you by TaylorMade and their TP5 and TP5X golf balls. High draw? Check. Low fade? Check. Bump and run? Out of the sand or flop shot? Check, check, and check. No matter what shot you need to pull off, there's one ball that's better than them all, and that's the new TP5 and TP5X from TaylorMade. With a newly redesigned dimple pattern that decreases drag and increases lift, it's the number one ball in golf, no matter the shot. So whether you need to hit it high over the trees, under, or even through them, hit TP5 or TP5X, the one ball designed to handle it all. Check them out online by going to TaylorMadeGolf.com for more information. All right, now back with me is our resident director of instruction, Tom Patri. Tom can be found currently at his summer location up at Farmington Country Club in Charlottesville, Virginia. So if you're anywhere near Virginia, West Virginia, or the Washington, D.C. area, go make the short drive over to Charlottesville and get a lesson from one of the top instructors on the planet. Tom will help you get to the top of the leaderboard no matter what level you compete at, even if first prize is only having your buddies having to buy the beer at the end of the round. If you can't go see Tom in person, do what I did. Download the V1 video app and send Tom videos of your golf swing. He can help get you dialed in through the app. Please check out his website, tompatri.com, and give him a follow on Twitter and Instagram at TomPatriGolf. And don't forget to subscribe to his YouTube channel where you can catch well over 150 free playing lessons out there for you right now. Just added a few more yesterday. And it's always an honor to have Tom as part of the show. TP, how are you, my friend?
Boy!
No better way to kick off a show than with that. How are you, TP?
I'm good, Chris. I had to kind of hustle home. I taught late and fiddling around at the club trying to hit some balls. And I looked at my watch and I was like, uh-oh, I got to get home for the big guy. So I bolted. But I'm doing good.
Tom, I want to get right into it tonight. Last week we talked about Collin Morikawa's big win at the Open Championship. He's now won 5 times in 49 events. So 49 events he's played in since joining the tour a couple of years ago. So he's got those 5 wins. He's got a couple of second place finishes, 3 to be exact, 18 top 10s, 28 top 25s. He's won 2 majors now, right, in a little over 2 years. And over Tiger's first 2+ seasons on tour, he had 7 wins compared to Morikawa's 5, but the same 2 majors. I don't want to get crazy, and I don't want to start putting lofty expectations on Morikawa. He's gotten off to a heck of a start for his career for 2 years, Tom.
Yeah, so before we do that, let's talk about Next on the Tee and their podcast rating and how great that is. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
But on the Morikawa...
Thanks to the fans. Appreciate them.
Yeah, I know. You got that right. So, listen, the stats are incredible, are they not? The kid is very... And, you know, one of the big differences I see, Chris, is the stats are so similar, but the hype about Tiger versus the hype about Collin are not comparable. I mean, Tiger was like the Beatles. So, you know, he was the Rolling Stones. He was, you know, whatever. He was Bruce Springsteen instantly. And Collin Morikawa goes about it in a whole different way. You know, he's kind of, you know, I kind of compare it kind of like to the early 60s when everybody talked about Jack and Arnold and Gary, but nobody talked about Billy Casper. And if you look at that record in the early 60s, the Casper record was incredible and arguably better than players. Very, you know, more consistent, you know, as many wins, if not more, majors, the whole thing. Collin Morikawa is just like a quiet assassin. You know, he just kind of quietly goes about his business. He does his thing. He hits incredibly quality golf shots. He drives the ball beautifully. You know, the rap on him being a bad putter, obviously, yeah, I got to kind of laugh at that a little bit. You don't do the things he's done, and you're not a bad putter. I mean, putting is such a streaky thing anyway. But the kid is really, really classy, very refined, very, very, you know, low key. Yeah, I love him. I personally love him, and it's a tough comparison comparing anybody to Tiger Woods from a media hype standpoint. But the stats, you're right, Chris, are pretty darn close. Now, can he sustain that? That's to be seen. But certainly to this point right now, pretty damn impressive.
Tom, when you look at the season that Morikawa's had, and then you also look at Jon Rahm, right? Rahm has one win this year, right, at the U.S. Open. Plus, he would have had a second, right, if it wasn't for COVID. He probably wins the Memorial going away. But finished tied for ninth at the Players, tied for fifth at the Masters, tied for eighth at the PGA, tied for third at the Open. And he has a total of 12 top 10 finishes this year on tour. Right? You compare that to Morikawa, right? Got the 2 wins now, right? He won at the Open and then earlier this year at the Workday Championship. Finished tied for 18th at the Masters, tied for 41st at the Players, but tied 8 at the PGA, tied 4th at the U.S. Open. Total of 8 top 10 finishes. So pretty darn close between the two. Does Rahm have an edge because of the top 10s and then, the U.S. Open victory? You couple all that together, and then, like I say, you got to give him at least half credit for the Memorial. Probably would have won it. But if you're talking about PGA Tour Player of the Year, you leaning towards Rahm, you leaning towards Morikawa if it all ended right now?
Well, here's the bottom line. It's not ending right now. And we got some more, important events in the playoffs coming up. So, if it ended right now, I think it's going to sound crazy. If it ended in a tie, which obviously doesn't happen, but I'm still waiting for the playoffs, and there's more golf to be played. John did an impressive job at Torrey Pines, no doubt about it. But I think I was more impressed by the Morikawa win, across the pond, considering how little, if any, links golf he'd played and how well he managed that golf course. Rahm won the U.S. Open on the golf course he's fond of, he's familiar with, he's won on before, he's got an affinity for. Collin went across the pond and played a style of golf he's never played before in his life and played in a pretty dominant fashion. So I give a little edge to the major win across the pond. But you're right, Chris. It's so statistically tight right now. It'd be hard to make a decision. I'm leaning towards Collin just a little bit.
Tom, let's go in a little bit different angle. Let's talk about Xander Schauffele compared to Collin Morikawa. Schauffele is a guy that many of us are expecting to break through any time now at a major. I mean, he has 9 top 10s in majors, including top 10 finishes in all 5 U.S. Opens that he's played in. What do you think? What's the difference between he and Morikawa? Morikawa breaking through and getting it done. Xander is still knocking on the door.
So here's what I'll warn everybody out there about. These kids are both youngsters in respect. Collin's obviously a little bit younger, but both younger. Xander Schauffele is an incredibly talented young person, and is played some great golf. Although he hasn't had the success Collin's had so far, but you know how absolutely fine the line is in professional golf because you follow it as closely as I do. This could flip at any minute. We could see Collin go, I hope not, go into a little bit of a slump or a little bit of a dry spell, and all of a sudden Xander wins a breakthrough event, maybe wins a major, gets on a little bit of a run. You got to look at these careers over a 20-year plus period, and a lot of this is unwritten. Xander Schauffele is every bit as talented as Collin Morikawa as far as concerned physically, hitting golf shots. He's got a wonderful record in majors. He could have very easily won 2 majors at this point in his career with just a couple of turns of the golf ball. So, it's too early. It's just too early. Any of these things could flip in a second.
Tom, I want to get your thoughts. We'll talk about the Olympics for just a moment. We've seen Bryson DeChambeau test positive for COVID, so he's out. Patrick Cantlay and Brooks Koepka were the next 2 in line to join the team. They both declined, so now we get Patrick Reed in place of DeChambeau. So does this present an opportunity for Patrick Reed to once again become Captain America, maybe do a little reparation to his image if he were to go on and win the gold medal?
You're going to really do this to me on the air, right? You're going to put me on the spot on the air? You're going to do that,
I am.
Right?
That's what I do.
So let me answer it the way I answered it the first time you asked me this question in the air months ago. Patrick Reed in the Tom Patrick camp of golf is a cheater, okay? Not on one occasion, but on more than one occasion. Patrick Reed has a list of carnage behind him that's a mile long. We can go back to Augusta State. We can go to University of Georgia. We can go to the PGA Tour. We can go to the silly season. We can go a lot of different places and find similar situations. Patrick Reed couldn't get in my car if he was hitchhiking down the highway, and I was the last person on earth. Okay? So, Captain America, I'm sorry. I want to puke when I hear that.
So, another thing that we talked about, I believe it was last week. So you think about what we've got in the meeting rooms and on the course and all that sort of stuff at the Ryder Cup. You're going to have Patrick Reed. You're going to have Bryson DeChambeau. You're going to have Brooks Koepka. And let's not forget that the last time we had a Ryder Cup, Brooks and DJ had a little dust up, I believe, on the plane over to the event. So we could have, 4 malcontents in that room, theoretically representing our country. What will that be like?
It makes for good TV and good radio, doesn't it, Chris? I'm not sure it makes for good team play, but it makes for good TV and good radio. I mean, it's kind of like it's almost turning into Housewives of Atlanta. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I mean, I get a kind of a kick out of it in a bad sort of way. The Brooks Bryson thing makes me kind of chuckle. I'm not sure who's the bigger child at times, but I certainly enjoy when Brooks stokes the fire. It's ridiculous, and then I forgot about until you just said that the Dustin Brooks thing. Last time I forgot all about that. There's so many storylines here. It's unbelievable. I don't feel really faithful right now. I don't envy Steve Stricker's position right now a whole lot. He's dealing with a lot of drama, and more drama than he needs in a team situation going into a really important event.
So is this a team you could root for, or is this a team that's hard to root for?
It's hard for me to root for it. It's hard for me to root for the team. You know me, Chris, pretty well. I'm as patriotic as anybody. But I think the Europeans have to be licking their chops right now. And Steve has to be, and Steve's a very quiet, kind of a laid-back guy, wonderful gentleman. I'm not sure if he's strong enough to handle this crowd and sit him down and say, guys, you know what? Stop. Just stop. We need to come together on this deal, or it's going to get embarrassing. I'm not sure he's that kind of guy. I don't envy his position. I really don't.
Tom, let's switch gears a little bit. Later on tonight, Tom Purtzer is going to be back on the show, and he's always been known as one of the guys that has the sweetest swing when he was out on tour. If you could pick one golf swing to copy and paste, and whether you're putting it on yourself, you're putting it on your students, you're putting it on me, whatever, outside of Ben Hogan maybe, is there a better swing to copy and paste and put on anybody than Tom Purtzer's?
Well, the current swing I always go to as far as a model, Chris, and I think it's tough to have models with students because they're unattainable, but is Adam Scott. But in Purtzer's generation, he was certainly at the top of the list. TP had an incredible looking golf swing, a very rhythmic golf swing, fundamentally sound golf swing, and was a wonderful ball striker. Obviously, he was held back a little bit by the magic wand at times, like all of us are at times. But yeah, it was beautiful. I would say in his generation, he was the one I probably would look to, but today would be Adam Scott.
Tom, speaking of the magic wand, the putter, one of the things that's been written many times is around if you catch the yips, you die with the yips. Is that true? You find that it's hard to, once you've got it, you can't get rid of it?
I think the most amazing story that's not talked about enough is Bernard Lang. I mean, we have a guy who went to the graveyard of the yips twice in his career and reinvented himself twice with different putting grips and different putting styles, and won 2 Masters on arguably, and easily arguably, the 18 hardest putting surfaces on any one golf course at Augusta National. But I think that makes him almost freakish in the ability to recover from that situation twice in his career. Most times when you see somebody go down that road and get infected with that disease, you never see him reappear again. It's an awful thing. I work with a lot of people at the club level who have gone through that situation, and we've had to really reinvent the wheel in terms of one time, not anymore, the long putter or the belly putter. I think the USGA did the club player a serious disservice when they outlawed those two putting styles, considering there was no hard and fast evidence saying that changed the ability to score. I mean, if you looked at Ernie Els with the long putter, he was horrific. Didn't help him one bit. So for every person you pointed to that said they putted better that way, there was a player that didn't putt any good that way. So, but a lot of club players took solace in that style, and it helped them calm the nerves and be able to play the game and enjoy themselves. But Chris, to answer your question, when you go down that roadway, sometimes it's a very, very, very difficult return.
Tom, one of the recent videos you've added to your YouTube channel is about the pain of change. For those of us coming to you or going to our local PGA professional for help, why do we need to get comfortable with the pain we're about to go through when we're trying to make a swing change?
Changing the physiology of a golf swing, Chris, is a difficult endeavor. I mean, anybody that's played the game for any length of time, and unfortunately in some cases have gone down the wrong road and developed some habits that aren't really healthy or fundamentally healthy, and they really seriously want to change the motion, change the physiology of their golf swing, they don't have any idea how difficult it is. It's once the computer called the brain writes a chip, that chip is kind of locked into that thing called the brain, and it's really hard to rewrite it. It's not like a computer, you just hit the delete button and you start fresh again. The brain is a very stubborn animal. So changing the physiology of a motor skill is a difficult endeavor, and I'm not sure that any of the recreational players I've ever encountered truly understand how hard it is to change a motion. I think when you look at what Faldo and Ledbetter did, incredible, absolutely incredible. If you look at a very, very young Nick Price, you go way back and look at his golf swing real early, and then look at what he won with on tour and won a major with. Incredible work had to be done there. We've had some other swing changes on tour that have been, pretty substantial. I think of Curtis Strange and Jimmy Ballard in that style. It's really hard to change the physiology of golf swing, and I don't think people understand the toil and the work that has to go into that to really make an effective, long-term, and lasting change.
Just a couple more before I let you go, and I know you know that my next guest is the great Bob Ford. They've had a long relationship with Mr. Ford. Talk about him and the things that you picked up over the years from him.
I met Bob Ford in 1984 playing the South African tour. First time I had any real close contact with Bob, Chris, and we've developed a very long and a very important friendship to me from that time. Bob Ford is the epitome of what a PGA golf specialist could be. He's in first place in that category and is not a close second. He's been a friend to me. He's been a mentor to me. He's given an advisor to me. I love the man like he was my brother. I've never met somebody who gave back, very, very quietly gave back to so many of us that needed help, whether it be golf swing help or business help or personal life help. He's always been there for us. I don't think that the younger generation of the PGA of America who do not know him personally understands the impact he had on us as a profession over the last 30 plus years of our development as an organization behind the scenes. Certainly the people at Oakmont and Seminole know who Bob Ford is very well. Every time I spend time with Bob Ford, I value that time. I love him very, very much. He's got an incredible family. His wife, Nancy, and kids are just an incredible unit. I've been privileged to stay at the house a couple of times, and it's always been, I've always gotten in the car and drove away thinking that it was a special time for me. So you're blessed to have him on as your next guest. We're blessed to have him as one of our pillars of our organization. And I can't say enough about him, obviously.
Tom, before I let you go, remind our listeners how they can get all the content that you have out there, your YouTube channel, and then following you on social media as well.
All the typical places, Chris. The website is www.tompatri.com, and then Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all those regular places. And then the favorite place for people to get me is bi-weekly with Chris Mascaro and Next on the Tee, the greatest golf podcast on the airwaves.
I love you, my friend. Thank you so much for coming back and being part of the show again tonight. Look forward to catching up with you in a couple of weeks. In between now and then, stay safe, my friend.
Chris, you tell Bobby I said hi, and tell Purtzer I said hi. You're the best in the whole world. I love being on with you, pal. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you betcha. Take care, CP. We'll catch up soon. That's the great Tom Patri. At Tom Patri Golf is where you can follow him on Twitter and on Instagram. The YouTube channel, folks, if you're not subscribed already, and you should be, go out there and get that done. Like I said, he is well over 150 playing lessons out there and adding to it all the time. Added a handful yesterday, and I know he's still got more to come. So I can't say enough great things about Tom Patri. His style of teaching is fantastic. And the amount of content that he gives away for free, oh, by the way, is wonderful as well. So looking forward to catching up with Tom again in a couple of weeks. Okay, before I get to my next guest, Bob Ford, I want to remind you about a few of our sponsors, starting with our friends over at Squares Golf. Are you like me, always considering new golf equipment, maybe a new driver? I'll tell you what, let me reset your thinking because I discovered Squares golf shoes. The patented square toe provides balance, stability, and a wider base for increased connection to the ground, effectively increasing your swing speed by 2.2 miles per hour, an average of 9 yards of distance. Independent tests prove it. That's right. It's proven in science. Go to squares.com. That's SQAIRZ.com and get Squares 30-day money-back guarantee. Use promo code DISTANCE for $20 off. Remember, distance comes from swing speed, and swing speed comes from your connection to the ground. And folks, I wouldn't tell you about it if I didn't experience it for myself. I've never felt more stable in my golf swing, which allows me to swing faster and launch it further. Squares, the distance golf shoe. I also want to give a shout out to another new sponsor, Bionic Gloves. Do what you do better with Bionic Gloves. Whether you're looking to own the golf greens, improve your workouts, or get your hands dirty in the garden, Bionic Gloves has you covered. Designed with a hand specialist, Bionic Gloves feature patented innovations that help improve your grip. The strategically placed anatomical relief pads also prevent calluses and blisters, while the web and motion zones allow for greater dexterity and flexibility. Head over to BionicGloves.com to find the perfect glove to up your game. And I want to remind you about our friends over at Zexio. Back in 2001, Zexio Strixon began making clubs for men and women, and they've improved on those clubs every year since. I was fit for a set of Zexio 10 irons by a great fitter on their staff. He got me dialed in, and they feel and perform fantastically. They are by far the best irons I've ever played. They are light. I have picked up nearly 5 miles per hour in swing speed, and they're deadly accurate. Every part of Zexio clubs are made exclusively for Zexio. Like I say, everything is light and balanced. Swing weights are made to give us the highest smash factors. The best part of getting fit for Zexio clubs is hitting it higher and straighter than ever before, changing your game. Zexio clubs are a Golf Digest Hot List Gold winner for 2021. Congratulations to Zexio Ambassador NB Park for her 5-stroke victory earlier this year at the Kia Classic. It was her 21st victory, and she did it using Zexio 11 woods and X irons. Ernie Els and top instructor Martin Hall are Zexio ambassadors as well. See why and how Zexio can help improve your game. Go online to ZexioUSA.com. That's XXIOUSA.com and pick which set is right for you. Okay, now back in Next on the Tee with me is one of the top instructors ever and a living legend in our game, and that's Bob Ford. Bob has been a great player and instructor for over 4 decades. He grew up in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, played his college golf at the University of Tampa from 1971 to 1975, and was inducted into their Sports Hall of Fame in 2006. He was also inducted into the Allegheny-Kiski Valley Sports Hall of Fame in 1996. Our good friend Gus Farad over on the football side is also a member of that Hall of Fame. Bob was inducted into the Western Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame in 1998 and the PGA Professional Hall of Fame in 2005. He was the head professional at both Oakmont Country Club and Seminole Golf Club, 2 of the top courses in the world. As a player, Bob won the Pennsylvania Open 3 times. He played in 3 U.S. Opens. He played in 10 PGA Championships. He joined me last September, and I was so honored to have him back then, and even more honored to have him for a second time tonight here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Bob, how are you, my friend?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you. Yeah. You caught a little bit of Tom Patri's his words with you, which were very nice, and he's a great guy himself.
Bob, I know you retired back in June. How you doing with that?
Well, Chris, I had retired from Oakmont in 16, so really the last 4 summers up until now have been kind of retired summers. So I've had some practice rounds at it, and I'm doing pretty good. I'm enjoying it, and I'm trying to keep my hands in the game a little bit, and have some time for my family, and just great to be able to get up and do whatever you want to do.
And I know you left Seminole there, like I say, in June, right after the Walker Cup. And I know that event holds a special place in your heart. Talk about what about the Walker Cup is so meaningful to you.
Well, Chris, it was the Walker Cup, one of the great events the USGA runs. And I couldn't have been more happy with how ours turned out. We had, a lot of incredible member support. Timmy Neer and Luis Fernandez were our co-chairmen. Tim took over for Jack Vardaman, who actually passed away throughout the summer prior, which was really sad, and they did a wonderful job honoring him. But the only time that you get great weather and the greens on the golf course, the condition of the golf course was just extraordinary. Nelson Caron is our new superintendent. He did a wonderful job, and it was just a recipe for success. And COVID only let us have about 2,500 spectators. So, those that got to be on the property really was really a treat for them. And the USGA did a wonderful job, hosting it with us and running the event from their standpoint. They do a great job at those things. And, it was a great time for me to retire. I had told Jimmy Dunn 2 or 3 years prior that I probably would sign off if he'd let me, and after the Walker Cup. And I retired after the 16 Open that Dustin Johnson won at Oakmont, so I thought it was pretty fitting to, go through another USGA event and call it quits. So, but the Walker Cup was a great memory now for us at Seminole.
And Bob, Nathaniel Crosby was the captain of the U.S. team this year. Played his college golf down there at the University of Miami. He's the 1981 U.S. Amateur champion and also obviously one of Bing Crosby's sons. And Bing was a part owner of the Pittsburgh Pirates from 1946 until he passed in 1977. I'm curious, did you get to know Bing and the Crosby family from your years up there at Oakmont?
No, Chris, I really didn't. I started at Oakmont really after college in 75. So Bing was only alive a couple more years. But, I've certainly got to know Nathaniel through the years as he was, after he retired from his playing career, which is a wonderful player. He really got in the golf business. He and Tony Penna were pals. They got in that business. He got in the Tony Penna Golf Club business with Tony, and he got in the business with Jack Nicklaus. And so he's been through the golf industry, and we've been pals through those years. And then when I got to Seminole, he's a character. Nathaniel's a great guy, and meant the world to the game and to Seminole, and USGA did a great job picking him as our captain, during the Walker Cup at his own club. It was really neat, really a cool thing to do, and he did a great job. He won both matches, over at Liverpool and at Seminole. And just a fun guy. Everybody loves him. Easy going. There's no airs about him at all. And just a good guy to be around and play golf with.
Bob, Seminole has been a course that we've all heard about for years, heard how great it was, but most of us had never seen it, not even on television. But we got our first look at it last year at the TaylorMade Driving Relief match, and now we get to see a bit of it at the Walker Cup. Why was the timing right over the last year to let the world finally see the fantastic course that you have there?
Well, Seminole's run by a czar, and Jimmy Dunn is our current czar. He's got about 9 years in as the czar, and every czar has their own philosophy on Seminole, and a lot of people continued the philosophy of czars before them. And, Jimmy's kind of his own man, and he really felt like we owed it to the game to share Seminole, with a championship like the Walker Cup, which is one of the few that we could host at Seminole because the property is so small, but also host it with the world and let, open the doors to the world to see Seminole. And in 2022, we're also going to host the Jack Stevens college tournament, which is going to be aired on the Golf Channel. And so Jimmy just feels differently, and he calls the shots. Really doesn't need any, he asked for some advice for some of the other guys on the board that they meet a couple times a year, but virtually he makes the decisions, and his decision is to get back to the game. So he gave back to amateur golf. We have a lot of, as you know, Seminole members that are Walker Cup players and captains throughout our history, and our members embraced it. They loved it. They're so proud, and there's not a member there that felt like we shouldn't do it.
And Bob, you've had dozens of assistant pros go on, from working for you to being head pros somewhere else all around the world. That seems like a pretty darn nice legacy to leave to the game. Is that something you look back on and say, you know what, that's probably my greatest achievement?
Chris, I had a motive. I knew someday I was going to retire, and I needed places to play around the country. And now I've got about 54 honorary memberships out there. It is my legacy. I'm fortunate to have been at two places, kind of, even at the same time. So I kind of doubled down on how many guys got out. But I was very fortunate that really the members at Oakmont and Seminole embraced, helping these kids move on. I did very little, frankly. I hired the kids and they did the rest, and then the members took care of them and made sure they got jobs at places. And it's been a great thrill for our members every time someone, one of our guys gets a job, and a great thrill for me as well. I'm just kind of been along for the ride, but it's been a great ride.
Bob, Devin G is the head pro at Oakmont now. He's just the third head pro there over the last 69 years. It's kind of like getting the head coaching job with the Steelers. You're probably going to be there for a while. And he's getting ready to host his first USGA event in a couple of weeks when the U.S. Amateurs played there. So what advice did you give to Devin before you handed him the keys a few years ago?
Well, he was giving me advice the last few years, Chris. He's really a great golf professional, and now they're getting ready to have his first baby, which I'm so excited for him about. But Devin and Matt Cahill down at Seminole, it was, I was incredibly lucky to get the Oakmont job. I was the assistant under Lou Worsham, and he retired, and I interviewed with 5 other guys. Went through about a 1.5 long process. I had the advantage. I was there, and people knew me. And even though I was young, they were willing to give me a chance. And Devin and Matt are both really good players. Both clubs are kind of demand that from their golf professionals, from the history of Lou Worsham at Oakmont, and before him, Emma Leffler was a great player. And at Seminole, obviously, they had the Masters champions, couple, Claude Harmon and Henry Picard, And then Jerry Pittman that I replaced he had two top 10 in the Masters and the Open in the same season. So they had a history of good players. These two kids happened to come along right at the right time, and they're tremendous golf professionals. I couldn't be more proud of them and couldn't be more supportive in the choice that the club's made in hiring both of them.
Bob, I read that you and your college roommate are serving as co-chairman for the U.S. Amateur. Talk about getting to do something like that with him.
Well, Chris, you're on top of your game. Not many people know that. Not that it's a secret, but, I've had a lot of nice things bestowed on me through the years, again, because I was at such famous clubs. But it's one of the great honors that I've ever held. The number one, to be a member at Oakmont, and number two, for Ed Sachs, our president, and for him to allow me to be the chairman. And I asked Rod to be my co-chairman because we were college roommates. He's been a member there for 30, 40 years. He's vice president of the club and just one of the great people in the world. And we've had so much fun. And we've done very little work because we hired a gal named Laura Seguin, who is Eli Seguin's wife. Eli's the pro at the Vineyards in Martha's Vineyard. And he worked at Seminole for us and got that job up at the Vineyards and married this wonderful gal who's got a big background in USGA administration of tournaments. And we were smart enough to hire her. She tells us what to do, and we get all the accolades, and she does all the work. So it's been great. The U.S. Amateur has been a blast. I can't wait. When we hosted it in '03, it was one of the most fun events that all of us had in our tenure there at Oakmont, whether you're a member or staff or whatever. It's just really fun. And we're excited to do it. And to be the co-chairman of it, it's a real thrill and a real honor for me.
Bob, I read a story about Lee Trevino up there at Oakmont. I want to get your thoughts. Is it true or is it just an urban legend? But I read the story that he would offer any comers, whether it's fellow tour players or members there at Oakmont, that he would play his own ball from the back tees, and his opponent would just have to bring a putter because Trevino would concede that the ball was on the green every time in regulation. But the caveat was that Trevino could place the ball anywhere on the green that he wanted, and his opponent had to putt from there. Lowest score obviously winning the hole. Legend has it, Trevino never lost. Is that true? Did that happen?
No, Chris, no. You're catching me off guard here. I've never heard that story. I will tell you, though, that we have talked about a story similar to that. No, it's never been done, but, I've told people that you could hit 18 greens at Oakmont and not shoot par if you, let us put the ball on the green in a certain spot. So it's interesting. I've never heard that said about Lee. Really, the quote that we credit Lee with that we have in some of our documents is, the fact that you could play the Open next week at Oakmont. They're ready, U.S. Open ready, day in and day out, 125 days a year. So, but no, I never heard that story. It's interesting, but he's right, and I bet he could have beat him.
Bob, going back to your playing career, pardon me, you qualified to play in 3 U.S. Opens, including the '83 Open there at Oakmont. And when I look back at the stories about you and that week, you got to play practice rounds with Jack Nicklaus, Tom Weiskopf, Ed Snead, Arnold Palmer, Ben Crenshaw, Miller Barber, and Jay Siegel. Then if you look at who you got paired with over the weekend, because you made the cut, you're playing with Hubert Green, Lou Graham, Bob Gilder. And you had to be, I'm guessing, 29 or 30 at that time. And here you are playing with arguably some of the greatest players to ever pick up a golf club. You intimidated at that point, or are you used to playing with guys at that level?
Petrified. Absolutely petrified. Are you kidding? No, I was, I was way over my skis. I did qualify in 1980 to play in the Open at Baltusrol that Jack beat Aoki in. And I played in the PGA, I think, in 81. So I had a couple under my belt. And I will tell you, though, I played with Jack Nicklaus the weekend before before the week. It wasn't the exact week. He comes about, 10 days early to play with his sons, and we got to play. And I asked him, I said, would you play with me during the week, a practice round? And he said, yeah, let's play the Wednesday, and I'll get the game. And he got Weiskopf and Snead to play with us. And with Arnold, Arnold was always just incredibly gracious to me and said, come on, we'll play a practice round. And we set up Tuesday. Cute story about that day. I had caddied for Ben Crenshaw the fall prior in Japan, of all places. Roger Cleveland got Bob Ross and I from Baltusrol organized to go down there to a club that his wife's family owned and teach for 2 weeks. We took our wives, paid all our expenses. We taught for a couple of weeks. And they had a tournament there called the Benson and Hedges. You wouldn't remember this because it was back in 82, I guess. It was Tony Jacklin versus Ben Crenshaw, 4 rounds in 4 days on 4 different continents. They were obviously flying around, but they flew them into this club we were teaching at. And I got to caddy for Crenshaw, and Bob Ross caddied for Tony Jacklin. I don't know, they both shot 71 or 72, but, it was really my first time to spend some time with Ben. And I don't know how it came about, but I said, if I happen to qualify for the Open at Oakmont next summer, would you play a practice round with me? He said, yeah, I'd love to. So I called him in after I qualified and said, Ben, I actually made it to the qualifier. Can you play on the Tuesday? And he said, yeah, that'd be great. So I kind of grew up caddying a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit for Jay Stigall. And Jay stayed at my house in 81 when he won the Pennsylvania Amateur at Oakmont. So we were pals, and I added him to the group. So we had Arnold and Jay and then Crenshaw. And it comes the day of the event on that Tuesday, and Ben says, we're all set. I got Miller Barber to play with us. I'm like, oh no, oh God. I got Jay Stigall and Arnold Palmer. And he said, well, we got 5. And he said, do you think they'll let us play? I said, oh my God, I don't know, Ben. I kind of doubt it, but let me talk to PJ Boatwright. He was kind of running the championship. And I said, PJ, I'm in a bind here. I got these guys, do you think we can play? And he said, is Arnold going to play? I said, yeah. He said, why don't you just go ahead and play 5? So because we were playing with the King at Oakmont, we got to play 5 ball, and that's how that all came down. But the point of the story is, after that Tuesday and Wednesday playing with those superstars, those my heroes, come Thursday I wasn't so nervous. I mean, I was really nervous Tuesday and Wednesday, and I wasn't really nervous come Thursday. And I was paired with 2 of my buddies, Steve Benson and Jim Albus, who were both club pros that we all played on a cup team match in 81. Down at Turnberry in Miami, and so we were pals, and it was just like going out there with my buddies, and I just wasn't that nervous, and I just, I played kind of like I normally play at Oakmont, because it's my home course, and just got lucky enough to make the cut and play the weekend, and obviously just one of the great shows in my career.
Bob, just a couple more before I let you go. And I also read that you played a round of golf with Ralph Terry, Phil Mazeroski, and Bob Friend, the 3 main guys involved in the 1960 Pirates' great World Series victory over the Yankees, with obviously Maz hitting the home run to walk it off against Ralph Terry in the 9th inning. I'm curious, what was the conversation like during that round?
Well, I don't know that I remember it much, but I mean, those were, I was a Philadelphia boy, as you know, and Phillies fan, in 1960. So I really wasn't a Pirate fan, but my folks moved back to Pittsburgh. Thank God. That's what opened all the doors for me in my career. And, I obviously became a Pirate and a Steeler fan very quickly, and a Penguin fan. And, to get to play with those 3 legends, at Oakmont. Bob Friend was a member at Oakmont, and he was my golf chairman. And his son Bobby, kind of raised him since he was 10 and became a great player, lost in a playoff in the Canadian Open to Billy Andre, but he was a great player himself. And, Maz is just a great guy and gave so much back to the city, as Bob did. And Ralph Terry, as you know, is just one of the great guys in the world. Just couldn't be a better guy. I think he actually won on a Champions Tour. And he was a great friend of Dennis Walters, who was the paraplegic trick shot artist, who's become one of my best friends down in Jupiter. We spend, lots of time together, and he just raves about Ralph. And those three guys couldn't be three better guys, and we just had a ball.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. Dennis Walters is going to join me on the show in a few weeks, so very excited about that conversation too.
That's
Bob,
great.
before I let you go, let our listeners know. I can't imagine you're done with the game of golf. What's next for you?
Well, Chris, I do some consulting with Golf Business Network. It's called GBN, and Patrick Seether owns it and is the president of it. And we do some searches for private clubs for the GMs, the superintendents, and the directors of golf. And that keeps me kind of busy. And you know that I'm the starter on the first tee for the U.S. Open, which is a lot of fun. And play a lot of golf, host a lot of pals at Oakmont, and I'll do some of that at Seminole, and just spending time with my family and enjoying life. Really, nothing too exciting. But I know you got Tom Purtzer coming up on your show, and he won't remember this because he's just one of the great tour players of all time. He always won the prettiest swing in in all the Golf Digest surveys and whatnot. But we were paired together in the final round of the U.S. Open at Olympic Oakland Hills in '96 in Detroit. And another great memory for me to play the weekend at Oakland Hills. And just one of the great guys. His brother Paul was a club professional and a good buddy of mine. And give him my regards. He's really one of the great guys in the world, and just love his golf swing.
I'll certainly pass that along. I'm sure he's in the queue, so he'll be joining me next. I'm sure he heard it, but we'll touch on that as well. Well, Bob, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your night to come back and be a part of the show. It's always a huge thrill when you're on with me. I hope I get the privilege of getting you back on the show again soon.
Chris, you're one of the best. Anytime, buddy. I appreciate you.
Same here. Take care. Stay safe, Mr. Ford. All the best to you and your family. I look forward to catching up with you, like I say, not too long from now.
All right, buddy. Take care.
That is the great Bob Ford, folks. Boy, it just doesn't get much better than that. What a wonderful man. Tom Patri at the top of the show talked about what a great person Bob Ford is. He is just as genuine and as nice and as good to people as you can imagine. He has been very, very nice to me. We've had a couple of really great conversations, not just on the air, but off the air as well. So I'm very honored that he came back and was a part of the show again tonight. I look forward to catching up with him, hopefully, like I say, real soon. All right, before I get to my next guest, Tom Purtzer, I want to give a shout out to a few more of our sponsors, starting with our friends over at Finn Cycles. It's time to rethink golf. The game is at a tipping point. The young people we need in the game don't have 4.5 hours to spend out on the course. Pairing Finn Cycles with a desire to play ready golf can cut playing time in half because all golfers go directly to their own golf ball. Plus, it's tons of fun. Go online to finscooters.com and click on Find a Fin for a course that has them near you. I also want to give a shout out to our friends over at Golf Pride. Did you know that Golf Pride lets you rep your favorite team while also using the #1 grip in golf? Your team, your grip, MCC Hybrid Grips, the #1 grip series worldwide. Features an exclusive brushed cotton cord in the upper hand for all-weather performance, with premium rubber in the lower hand for added feel. The new MCC Team Series is available in a variety of new color combinations, so you can rep your favorite team out on the course. Available in standard and midsize. Check it out online by going to golfpride.com. And folks, this segment of the show is sponsored by our friends over at the PGA Tour Superstore.
This segment of the show is brought to you by the PGA Tour Superstore. See why golfers everywhere are proud to call PGA Tour Superstore their golf pro shop. Visit them online at PGATourSuperstore.com. Now back to Chris and more of the show.
All right, now back in making his second appearance with me here on Next on the Tee is PGA Tour legend Tom Purtzer. Had such a great time with Tom when he joined me a few months ago that I wanted to get him back on the show as quickly as I could. Let me remind you about his background. He's from Des Moines, Iowa, played his college golf at Arizona State from 1970 to 73, turned pro a little bit later on in that year in 73, got his first tour victory at the 1977 Glen Campbell LA Open, won that golf tournament by 1 stroke over Lanny Watkins. Tom won 5 times on the PGA Tour, 4 more times on the Champions Tour. In all, he had 15 professional wins, and he's always been known as having the sweetest swing on tour. And it's a huge thrill to have him back with me again tonight here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Tom, thanks for coming back on the show.
Hi, Chris. How are you doing? Love being on.
I'm
your show.
fantastic. How are you?
I feel pretty honored to be behind to follow TP and then the consummate golf professional Bob Ford. He's the classiest. I think he's the classiest professional that I know. He can play as good as anybody, and just the nicest man you'd ever want to meet.
Yeah, and I certainly second that. And Tom Patri talked about it as we segued into Mr. Ford's segment. But yeah, he's a wonderful man, and very honored that he would come back and join me a second time. Just like I'm honored that you're back for a second time tonight. Catch us up, Tom. What's been going on with you this summer?
Oh, not much. Just I'm kind of in that stage where I enjoy being retired, but I'm getting bored. So I'm trying to figure out the next step in my next chapter in my life. But I'm having fun. I still play a little bit, practice quite a bit. You always think you can get better. So I think that's kind of what is in the back of my mind.
Tom, I want to take you back tonight to some more of the highlights from your career. And I want to start with the 1991 Colonial Tournament. You made one of the greatest birdies I've ever seen, maybe one of the greatest birdies of all time, on the 13th hole. You holed out from the bunker. You had a downhill lie from the back part of the bunker, not much room to take a backswing with that putter. And you putt it, and it goes over the lip and into the bottom of the cup. And the great Ben Wright, I saw the video, and Ben Wright, who's a wonderful friend of the show, and he was commentating on that shot. And he said he'll dream about that shot for years and tell his grandchildren about it. Talk about that shot.
Well, it was I hit a pretty good shot off the tee. I just kind of caught it too good, and it went over the green and kind of went back up the hill, and it kind of lodged on a little pebble instead of coming back down to the bottom of the bunker. So I was kind of stuck. I'm hitting up a downslope, and there's water right behind the pin. And, it's one of those shots that, Watson was in the same bunker, and, he was one of the best bunker players ever. So, I kind of thought, I was putting pretty good. So I figured if I could just get it down anywhere near, 5 feet, inside 5 feet, something like that, that's all I want. Cause I think I felt like I could have made it, but, I got in there with the sand wedge, and I'm going, I don't like this. I was a decent bunker player then, but I mean, in that situation, I think I might have been like one shot ahead at the time. And I was nervous as a cat. And, so I kind of got in there, and I got going, and I go, oh no, I don't want to do that. So then I saw, and there was no lip there. It was just a nice, gentle, the bunker had been raked up, so there was no lip. And I go, shoot, if I can just get this out of the bunker, downhill, if I can just get it kind of on the green, it'll get somewhere around the hole. And, I got in there, and, I don't know, I felt pretty good over it, and hit a good putt, and it just came out perfect. And luck have it, it went in the hole, which which ultimately kind of won the tournament for me. But it was kind of funny. I got a call from Julie Inkster about 2 months after that, maybe 2 or 3 months after. They were playing the Ladies Open there that year, and she was all upset at me she said, "You can't believe what they did to this bunker." There was a gigantic lip there, and so there was no way of putting the ball out of there. And lately I just seen they just had a PGA Tour just had a little blurb on that bunker, and it's totally different now. It's like you said earlier, it's a big, huge bunker with big lip, and I don't think the members thought kindly of me knocking that in. But the other thing that was funny is I went and did the media day for them the next year, and they took me out there and said, "We want you to reenact this," and they made it so that I could putt out of there, and I made it on my fourth ball. So it was
Wow.
I could be here and I could hit 100 putts, wouldn't go in, but on the fourth ball it went in. So it was pretty funny. I don't know, it must have been an easy shot.
Well, I also saw the PGA Tour tried to recreate that, right? I saw a video earlier this year where they had several players in that bunker trying to recreate that shot, and none of them could do it.
Yeah, it was totally, it was, 100% different. It was, huge lip, and it was a much bigger bunker. I was surprised they made it, that big. But yeah, totally, no way they could even barely putt it out of there. But that was pretty funny.
Tom, we're on the heels of the Open Championship, so I want to take you back to 1982 at the Open Championship at Royal Troon. You finished tied for fourth that week, and you were one of only a handful of guys to break par for the tournament. If it wasn't for a bit of a struggle in the first round, you probably win that championship. What do you remember about that week?
Well, the biggest thing was I felt good when I went over, had to qualify, played at a great golf course called Western Gales, and got through that qualifier, and then went over and played. And I liked the golf course right away. I felt good, and I had a good caddy, and I think his name was Jimmy. He was actually the caddy master at Western Gales. He said, "Hey, if you get in, I'll caddy for you over there." And he was an older gentleman, and I think he's told me that he caddied for Arnold there in the, 50, whenever they played at Troon in the 50s. And so he was, very knowledgeable guy, and so we got along good. And that first round was kind of killed me, but I didn't realize it was my first Open over there, and I didn't realize that traffic got a little bad coming in there tournament days, because when on my practice rounds I kind of breezed in there. There was only one way in and one way out, and so I got there and I was in traffic for over an hour. I got to the parking lot with 15 minutes before my tee time.
Wow.
Didn't get to hit any practice balls or anything. I think I might have hit a couple putts and took off, and shot 76. And, it's a little bit discouraged, but then, I still felt like I was playing good, and I wanted to make the cut in my first British Open. So shot 66 the second round. And I played pretty good after that. I think I had not a great round on Saturday either. I think, maybe I shot 74 or 5 or something, and then I played good on the last day. But the one thing I do remember is 17, pretty good par.
Yes.
And I hit a 2-iron, which I'm sure they're hitting probably 7-irons to that green now, but I had to hit a 2-iron, and I hit it about 6 inches away. Almost went in. And so I made 2 there, and then made a good par on the last hole to finish, tied for third or fourth or something. But it was a great experience. I loved playing over there. I enjoyed playing the British Open. It was hard for me because I'm a high ball hitter. I grew up in Arizona where we get no wind here. So, you can hit it as high as you want. But so I had to play a little different game, but that was the challenge of the British Open.
And you played in that Open at Troon again in '97. So I'm curious, Tom, you had several cracks at the eighth hole. People refer to it as the postage stamp. It's the shortest hole in Open Championship play, only 123 yards thereabouts. What's it like trying to get it on that green?
I equate it with that green at 17 at TPC. Yeah, it's kind of an either or. And the thing about it is over there, you got wind to contend with. You're hitting a short iron. And like I said, I didn't have that, that knockdown pitching wedge. So it was quite a challenge for me. But I think I might have hit the green one day out of the four. But I kind of equate it to, trying to get it on the green on 17 at TPC.
And Tom, one thing that folks may not remember, but prior to 1990, there was a different sized golf ball played over on the European Tour, just a little bit smaller than the ball that we're all used to. Did you ever have to play the smaller ball?
I think when the first year I played there, I think you could still play it, but nobody played it. It was really hard to play. It was not only smaller, but it was lighter. So it made it. It was a challenge. I don't know how those guys played with that ball before. But I think the year I played, I think you could play either one. If I'm not mistaken, but I've played around with it, and I didn't like it at all. I mean, it was I much preferred our ball, but I never did have to play it in a competitive round. So I feel kind of fortunate that everybody talked about that it went longer and it was better in the wind, and I didn't see that, but I don't know.
Tom, we'll fast forward to 1991. You finished fourth on the money list that year. You won the World Series of Golf in a playoff over Jim Gallagher Jr. and Davis Love III. You three were the only ones to finish the tournament under par. You tied at 1 under, and you would go on to win with a par on the second playoff hole. Talk about that win at Firestone. And, from what I see from the scores, must have been playing like a monster that week.
Well, it was always, back then, it was always the longest course that we played all year. And it was, it was tough as heck. It was really a great golf course. But, I mean, you had to, you fired up your long irons almost every other shot. You felt like you were hitting a 3 or 4 iron into a par 4. But, it was a great win for me. It really set up the rest of my career on the PGA Tour because I was 40 and I got a 10-year exemption. So that set me up right to the Champions Tour. And I got hurt. 91 was my best year, and I got hurt the first week in January at 92, and kind of wasn't the same after that. But I remember a lot of things about that round. How I just played steady. I didn't, and I love those kind of tournaments like U.S. Open, stuff like that, where you didn't have to shoot 20 under par to win. Because like you said earlier, the putter was my putter was a little dodgy at times. And, but I hit it really good that week. And then I remember, going to the playoff with Davis Love, who was, great player at that time. And I mean, still is. And then Jimmy Gallagher, and I was fortunate because he hit it in the first fairway, maybe. He hit it way, way right. And then Davis hit second, I think, and he hit a kind of a little hook in the trees. So I felt pretty good about it, and I just killed a drive right down the middle. And they kind of had tough second shots, and I just, hit I don't know what I hit, 9 iron or something for my second shot. And, but, that was one of those one of those memories that I'll never forget. You know, it was a huge win for me. It, you know, just a great week.
Tom, for our listeners who don't know what it's like to have to tee it up with a persimmon driver and a balata ball versus, you know, what we have today, talk about what that was like and how much the variation is between the clubs that you grew up playing and the clubs that kids today now grow up playing.
Well, I kind of feel like we were in the dark ages. It was a totally different game. You had to hit it in the middle of the club face, you know, with your driver. You know, they had bulge and roll on drivers that tried to help you, you know, hit off center hit and still be in okay shape. But, you know, and I think it's great that how the kids play now. I mean, this is what the equipment that they have, but, certainly, you know, Jack Nicklaus and, you know, Watson, Johnny Miller and all those guys, they played a much tougher game than the guys are playing now. Not to take anything away. I mean, but it was a totally different, you know, the balls were, you know, a lot different. And, you know, you're playing with 43.5-inch steel shafted wood clubs, that were heavy. And, you know, you really had to hit it in the middle of the club face to be any good at all. So, it was you know, and it's kind of hard to compare the two, now, but you know, you wonder if Jack Nicklaus or any of those, you know, great players had the equipment that they have now, what they would have done with that. Maybe it would have been scary. You know, I love watching the kids play these days. I went out specifically, I went to the Phoenix Open specifically this year just to watch Collin Morikawa play. I had heard a lot about him. Willie Wood's a good friend of mine, and, you know, and he gives me the scoop on all the young kids who to watch and who are the good guys and stuff. And I specifically went out there to watch him, and it's kind of neat to see what he's done, how he's handled this year.
Going back for just a moment on the comment about persimmon drivers, that's where the phrase "hit it in the screws" came from, right? Because they literally had 4 screws in the face of the driver. If you could catch it on the screws, you could get a little extra distance.
Yeah, and you knew if you didn't, you know, you definitely felt. But yeah, it was a different game. It really was. Pretty much everything was different. I mean, you know, we had 2 and 3 irons versus the rescue clubs that the guys use now, you know, and how much easier they are to hit than, you know, 2 iron and 3 irons. And, you know, again, not to take anything away from them, but it certainly was a much tougher game then.
Tom, as an Arizona State alumni, were you heartbroken for Jon Rahm at the Memorial, then thrilled for him at the U.S. Open? Is he a guy that you follow because you both played there?
Sure. Yeah. I really haven't. I've never met Jon. I've seen him, but I never have had the privilege to meet him. But great kid. He's done a lot at Arizona State, and he's had a great career. I was heartbroken at Memorial. What a shame. You know, I just don't know. You know, I don't think the tour handled that in a very good manner. You know, from the very start when they caught him coming off right off the 18th green, that should have been something that happened in the scorer's tent. What they did to him on 18th green was awful, and it was classless. And you know, my thought is, you know, if he doesn't have symptoms, let him play by himself on the last round. I know why they didn't do it, you know, because they would have caught grief from the country for you know, a guy testing positive and letting him play. But you know, if he doesn't have symptoms and he, you know, just let him tee him up by himself, let him play the last round by himself. I don't know. There had to be some other, he's got a 6-shot lead. He just shot 63 on the great golf course. And, I don't know. I don't know what the answer was, but it kind of broke my heart. But then, karma comes back and he wins the U.S. Open the next week on a really tough golf course. And, that was great to see.
Tom, back when you played, there was no TrackMan data. There were no devices. I don't know if anyone even heard of the term spin rate back at the time or smash factor or any of that stuff. Heck, you guys didn't even have video, so you could watch your swings. When things would go wrong with your ball flight, how did you deal with it? How'd you figure it out?
Well, I think, we relied on, we had, most of us had teachers. And I was lucky enough to have a really good teacher in Peter Costas and, some Hank Johnson and some other guys, my brother. So you'd kind of rely on them. It's funny when we would, I don't know, we'd had these 8mm cameras. So you'd take some film and then you'd have them developed, and a week later you could look at them. We didn't have much technology back then. I mean, I was with Spalding for a lot of years, and we'd go back to Chicopee and we'd watch them grind the head, and we'd get the club 6 months later. They'd have to go through the process and everything. And I mean, now you can get a new set of irons and on tour you can get them, in 3 or 4 hours. So, the technology's changed a lot, but, you basically relied on, feel, your feel, and you relied on great eyes of teachers. And that, it was, you didn't make a swing and then go back and look at your iPad right away, or get the data off of the TrackMan. I don't know. I think it's taken some of the feel away. I mean, these guys play great, but I think, like, I practice out at TPC, and, 4 out of the 5 kids have TrackMan. They're behind when they're hitting shots, and, every shot they get their phone out and they look and see what it was, what their results were on that swing. So I don't know. I think it's taken a little bit away from, just the feel and hitting shots and, stuff like that. So I don't know. I mean, it's good because it tells them, you can go somewhere and 20 minutes, they can give you a shaft and a driver head and a shaft that match what you want to do. And you can hit it 15 yards further, 20 yards further. So technology, it's kind of hard to stop technology, but I'm not sure it's good for the game.
Tom, before I let you go, talk about your golf academy and what you're doing now.
That's mostly my brother's. That's my brother's, and I help him. When he needs help with it, I help him a little bit. But I like teaching. I enjoy teaching. I found out that it's really hard for me to take a beginner and teach somebody, but I like to fine tune guys' swings, and that's really enjoyable for me. And I like to, I was never somebody that had a really good handle on golf psychology, but, I tried real hard with it. So I'm to the point now where I can help somebody, golf psychology. I can help them, maybe manage their game better and try and stay, a little more positive. I mean, as well as anybody that golfers tend to get down on themselves, and that doesn't really help the situation.
Right. Tom, before I let you go, let our listeners know, how can they stay up to date with all the things you're doing, and whether that's to reach out to you about a lesson or just follow you on social media?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook, and I spend way too much time on Facebook. I know that, But I'm probably going to start helping my brother a little bit more. Schools, they, with the COVID, all that stuff kind of went away, and it's slowly coming back. But we do some corporate outings, and that's fun. Where we get a corporation, and we get whether it's a bonus for a job well done that they get to come to the school and stuff. But we do some of those, and that's always fun. My brother's really a good teacher, and we have a lot of fun doing them. So we're trying to get that fired back up. So yeah, I mean, we'd love to do some more outings, and we have a good time doing it. And usually the people that come and are with us, they have a good time too.
Well, Tom, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your night to come back and be a part of the show. It's always a lot of fun when you're a part of the segment. Hope you'll come back and do it again soon.
Thanks, Chris. You've got a great show. I'm a listener now, and it's like TP said, you're the best. And I really enjoy coming on the show. And anytime I can help, anytime I can come on, I'll be happy to. Thanks again.
Thank you very much for all of that. Thank you. Stay safe, my friend. All the best to you and your family. We look forward to catching up soon.
Okay, thanks.
See you, Tom. That's a great Tom Purtzer. And folks, like we've said throughout this show, a guy who had the sweetest swing of anybody, probably of any era. You can probably match it right up against the great Ben Hogan for how sweet his swing and tempo and rhythm all were. And then had a great career on the PGA Tour, and then extended that over on the Champions Tour, and had some really great finishes in majors as well. And on top of all of that, and probably more important than any of that, is he's a great father and just a great person. So I can't thank Tom enough for coming back and being a part of the show, and I hope I get the privilege of having him back again soon. Okay, before I get to my next guest, David Pursell, let me remind you about our friends over at 2 Under. 2 Under men's performance briefs are the official underwear of the 2021 U.S. Ryder Cup team, the captain and all vice captains. They are worn by more than 30 players on the PGA and Champions Tour. They are also worn by over 70 NCAA Division I colleges and 17 NFL teams. The Joey Pouch technology provides the ultimate male asset management, delivering maximum comfort, fit, and performance, from the golf course to the boardroom to the bedroom. Find these 2 Under performance men's briefs in over 4,000 golf pro shops nationwide, all Shields sports stores, PGA Tour Superstore, Golf Galaxy, and other fine retailers near you. Go online to 2under.com. That's the number 2, UNDR.com. 2 Under performance in your pants. Use code ONTHE20 for a 20% discount at checkouts. Not valid on items already on sale or NCAA licensed briefs. All right, now next on the tee with me is David Pursell. David is the founder and CEO of FarmLinks at Pursell Farms, which is a fabulous-looking golf course and resort in Alabama. David is an Auburn alumni. He graduated with his degree in commercial art. He founded FarmLinks back in 2003. The golf course was named Best Public Course in the state of Alabama by Golf Advisor, and it was also number 1 on golfalabama.com and in Golf Week magazine as well. And it's an honor to have David with me tonight here on Next on the Tee. Hey, David, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
David, I mentioned at the top of the show, when most people think about the best public golf courses in the state of Alabama, pretty much everyone, I think, goes to the Robert Trent Jones Trail, and one of those courses immediately comes to mind. But FarmLinks topped all of them, and just about every publication I've looked at. Talk about, that's got to make you feel great.
It does. We're kind of the underdogs because the trail got started before we did, and they are a very well-publicized amenity here in Alabama. Have done great, brought a lot of tourism to Alabama, and they were one of the first to start the golf trails in states around. I know that it's been duplicated since then, but so we're a one-off golf experience here. Our story goes back in the fertilizer business when we used to sell controlled release fertilizer to golf course superintendents all across the country and around the world and in Canada and different places. And we used to bring them here. And so we built a really nice guest lodge and this 18-hole research and demonstration golf course called FarmLinks. And it was all about selling fertilizer back in the day. So this is back in the early 2000s. And one of the things we found out is that if we could get a golf course superintendent to get out of his environment, come and visit us, it was all, it was a free trip for those guys, and they would spend 3 days, 2 nights here, and we could not only show them our fertilizer plants and meet our people. They got some classroom training, but the real clincher was that we were able to demonstrate the usage of our product on this research and demonstration golf course, which had never been done before. So everything was just so unique. And Herds and Fry Golf Design out of Columbus, Ohio, they were the ones to design the golf course. I had met Mike Herdson and told him what it was we were trying to do. And they just built a fabulous track here. We used a lot of property, a lot of land to create an 18-hole golf course. And people love it because it's really, I won't say it's easy, but we don't try to penalize the golfer as much as maybe some courses would. But we just like people to have a good time. If they hit a stray ball, we don't grow the roughs up to where you're going to lose your ball. And people just really enjoy it. And a lot of times we'll have people come and they'll just say, I just shot my best score of my life. And that is absolutely one of the best things I love to hear, is that people are having fun. They enjoy the course and they're coming in droves. And it's just been an amazing dream come true for me, because I grew up, I was a golfer as a kid and just loved the game, but grew up in the fertilizer business, and I'm a, commercial art major at Auburn University, a lot of creative skills, and it's just been really, really fun to have people come to our little neck in the woods, which is not on the beaten path here in Alabama, and 3,200 acres, and we just love doing hospitality here. So I know that's a long answer, but there you go.
I appreciate that. But you mentioned that the course is a research and demonstration course. What do you mean by that?
Well, of course, it was we did some research on it. We would try new products on new grasses. We had partners with Toro and Club Car and BASF and some others that were all the top names in the golf industry. And what was really cool about FarmLinks was people would come and play, and we may have an area in the middle of the landing zone on hole number 1, which is the par 5. And it was just like a little small research deal. And they would have a sign on it, and we would talk about what's going on there. And people were just mesmerized by all these little trials that we had going on. And it became, it was so much more than just a golf round. They got to see different types of grasses. We have about 35 different types of grasses out here. All the greens are the same, and all the fairways are one season grasses. We have zoysias, Zorozoysia, and some Bermudas, and we tried some things that didn't work, and we would replace them. It was just really a lot of fun, and it was just so different from what anybody would see anywhere else. No private club could try what we did, because they would have members jumping up and down because they had a
research plot in the middle of the landing zone on number one, but, you know, we would do it just to do it. It was just a lot of fun.
And David, you're an amazing artist and graphic designer as well. I've seen some pictures that you've drawn or painted, some of the legends in the game of golf. Talk about the ones that you've done and why you chose those players.
Yeah, you know, it started off being an artist growing up. I remember going up to Shoal Creek right after it opened, and I saw this drawing of Bobby Jones in their kind of wind down room where you would go and get, you know, drinks or food after your round. And I was looking up at that and I said, you know, I can do that. And I love golf, and I also studied golf history. So Bobby Jones became the very first figure I ever drew. And as you know, there's so many classic photos of Bobby Jones swinging a golf club and just doing different things back in the late 20s and early 30s. So I did a big drawing, got some prints made of it, donated the original to Shoal Creek, to the board of directors of Shoal Creek. And at the same time, I was applying to get into Shoal Creek. So this was back in like 1990. And of course they voted me in, and they hung that picture on in the boardroom, just kind of up on the mantle, up on this huge rock fireplace. And I was honored by that. So then I just started out with the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America. They commissioned me for 14 years to draw somebody different every year. So I drew, you know, kind of whoever would win the old Tom Morris Award, and got to meet, you know, Byron Nelson and Greg Norman and Paul Azinger and, you know, all kinds of people. I drew Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer. And so I just, you know, since my affinity was golf, I just kind of decided to really focus on golfers. But I've done, you know, I did right after I've kind of gotten known for doing drawings of people who have recently died, such as Dale Earnhardt when he had his accident. You know, I did this. We're right in the middle of NASCAR country, and we're about 25 miles from the Talladega Speedway here. And so I drew a picture of Dale Earnhardt, which my wife says is the best one I've ever done. And then I did, you know, I got to do Sam Snead one time. Met Sam up at the Greenbrier up in West Virginia. And he came down one time for a charity golf event that I put on here for Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. And boy, you talk about a cool personality. He was a trip. He could tell you anything about, now he was in his 80s when he came down here. He could tell you what he shot each day in the 1936 U.S. Open, but he couldn't tell you what he had for lunch today. So it was just one story after another, and I was fascinated with that. But I've drawn, I've got the original I drew of Sam Snead is actually up in the clubhouse up at the Greenbrier. And then I did a drawing of Charlie Yates, who was the great amateur at Augusta National, and was able to present the original drawing to he and his family in the Butler cabin in the 90s. And so I've got an original in the Butler cabin. And so I'm just kind of trying to work my way around and get my artwork as many places as possible. But I probably got about 50 different print series out there. And when people want to get one, everything goes to charity, and it's awesome.
David, Sam Snead is a guy that I revere, and I love him during the course of his career and the things that he achieved. And I've heard a lot of stories about Sam Snead, so I'm curious to get yours. Like, was there a favorite story that he either shared with you or from your time getting to spend whatever amount of time that was with him?
Well, one of the things he said was he never won the U.S. Open, and that's what he always wanted to win. He won the British Open, won the Masters, won the PGA. And he told me one time, he says, if I had just shot even par, I would have won the U.S. Open like 4 or 5 times. I mean, and he just, back then they didn't really know who was shooting what. So he would kind of get in trouble on a hole. Next thing you know, he'd start pressing and he would lose by 1 or 2, kind of like that. But I'll tell you a cool story about when he played in our charity golf event. Now, he's probably 84 years old, and he comes up to Greystone Country Club, and he puts on a little clinic for all of the people that were participating in this charity golf event. And Sam was, he still holds the record for the most wins and on the PGA Tour. So he's out hitting balls, and he's still got that classic, beautiful golf swing. I mean, and everybody, I think it's truly one of the best golf swings ever in the history of professional golf. And so he's out there hitting a 5-iron about 150 yards. Okay, so he's just got this nice little swing, and he's just he'd hit a draw, he'd hit a cut, and everybody's just kind of standing around. And then all of a sudden, he kind of stops and turns around with that Sam Snead grin, and he looks at the crowd. He says, I bet y'all don't think I could still hit this 200 yards. And everybody said, no, we want to see you hit it. And so he lined up, and he hit just a rocket out there about, over 200 yards. Just this beautiful little draw. And, here's an 84-year-old guy with a swing. All his clubs were just absolutely worn out in the sweet spot. And everybody was just really fascinated with how good an athlete he was. And maybe one of he could probably rival some of the guys playing today, not necessarily in strength or whatever, but he literally could kick a dime off the top of a door. He used to do that all the time and win money. And he was just very, very limber, but totally full of stories. And, I love that. I spent hours with him just listening to him talk about, all his golf experiences.
And David, there's a lot of history on your golf course that players can go out there and learn about during the course of playing their round. Talk about that and how players can read about that history.
Yeah, all of our golf holes have different names. And so some of it is geographical. Some of it is historical. We have, there was a fort that was built by Andrew Jackson about just really a couple of miles from the farm here. And he floated down the Coosa River and had about 5,000 Tennessee volunteers and federal troops and went over and fought the Creek Indians at Horseshoe Bend. And they came right across our farm during that time. Hernando de Soto supposedly came through here. And we, there's names of golf holes like number 5, which is, I don't know if any of your listeners have played here or know about the course, but we've got this one hole that's definitely a candidate to be, our trademark hole. And it's a par 3. It's about 220 yards from the back tee, but it's a 170-foot drop. And we call it hang time. because you hit a ball out there and, the wind can do some really, really interesting things with the ball that goes up and then literally goes down another 170 feet of where it normally would hit the ground. And so, there were some Herdson and Fry, the great architectural group that's, famous for Aaron Hills, Mike Herdson and Dana Fry. They were great friends, and I just really enjoyed spending time with them out on the golf course and just rerouting. Some holes, I would give them credit for most of the golf course, but occasionally they would come out and they would, call me out of my office and say, hey, we got to make a decision on this particular routing change. And, so I get to go out and kind of give my opinion. But this is land that, that I kind of grew up on. I raised a family of 6 out here, and we spent a lot of time on the land well before we ever built the golf course. So, I knew a lot about the land and knew what it was I wanted to construct out here, and they absolutely did a magnificent job with that. So the little, the signs, each hole has kind of a little story with it, which is kind of fun to people coming out for the first time as well.
David, I want to ask you about a few of the other holes on the golf course. And I read that on the 14th hole, there can be any number of creatures sort of lurking off the left side of that par 4. It's, I think you named it the swamp hole. I'm guessing if you go way left, you might just want to drop another ball and not go look in there. Is that accurate?
Yes. Let's just say that there's nobody that has ever gone looking for a ball way back in that hole on the left and never come back. So what there is, there's a swamp, there's a body of water that runs down through there, and it was a wetland. And so Herdson and Fry, they were always very, very protective of wetlands and, wanted to make sure environmentally. In fact, the name of their firm was Herdson Fry Environmental Golf Design. They were very much known for taking care of the environment and making sure that you stayed away from kind of where nature is. And so, yes, you play that hole, it's a par 4, and the left really doesn't come into play that much. But if you do hit something over there, it would not be advantageous to go look for it very long and not very deep. There have been times when I have actually kind of jokingly said, if I gave you $1 million, would you take all your clothes off and go swim through that swamp to the other side? And I hadn't had a taker yet. So, it's, there's, in Alabama, all our snakes are poisonous. So I don't think you want to go out there and mess with them.
I also read that the Bermuda grass on the 15th hole only needs to be mowed once a year. Is that accurate?
That is not accurate, but it makes for a great story. The only grass that doesn't need to be mowed is called artificial grass. And we don't have any of that out here. But literally on the 15th hole, we have changed that hole out more times with different grasses. From time to time, we would just go in and just completely redo the fairway. All the greens have stayed the same. And we've got bent grass, A1, A4 bent grass that's kind of transitioned into T1 bent grass. But, and we've probably got, we're probably about as far south as you'll see healthy, bent grass. But that particular hole, we always kind of liked it because it was almost like a Swiss Army knife of things that you could do. You could do bunker surrounds, put in new grasses. So, back in the day when we were bringing in, 1,000 to 1,500 golf course superintendents a year, we would, the grass companies would come in and they would want to showcase some of their new grasses. So we'd allow them to do that on that particular hole.
And David, talk about the original farmhouse that stands by the 18th tee. It was built way back in the 1800s. I imagine it's got quite a history.
Yes, sir. It was a plantation home that predates the Civil War, and it was not in our family. My parents found the home, and it was dilapidated, but it wasn't in terrible shape. It had a good roof on it, and all the timber was heart pine, and so the bones of the building was good. So they decided in the 70s, when I took off to go to Auburn, I was the youngest child. They moved out to the little community called Fayetteville, Alabama, and they began renovating this home, and it took them about 2 years to renovate it, literally back to its grandeur, back probably during the Civil War. It had a smokehouse, a lot of historical buildings around it, built on a little knoll around about 25 different springs, which serve as our complete irrigation source today. And so there was the agricultural crop that this particular plantation had run by a guy named Moses Hamilton that actually lived in the house and had operated the plantation. It was they had orchards. They were known for all these orchards and these fruits that they would grow around. They would haul these fruits like in surrounding counties and all. And I've read some historical accounts about what great fruits they used to grow. And, so now we're operating that particular venue. My parents actually lived in that home for 30 years. We turned it into a wedding venue, about 22 acres. I actually call it the Augusta National of wedding venues because it is amazing, and we're really covered up with weddings. But so we're kind of growing a different type of fruit now that we do a lot of ministry related things on the farm, and of course having these weddings at that same spot. That's every weekend there's a wedding, and it's just kind of fun. That's a little bit aside from the golf course itself, but we also have the Orvis shooting grounds here. Actually, the family that owns Orvis approached us about putting in a shooting grounds, and or they do, so they operate it. They're not our employees, it's Orvis's employees, and what they're doing is teaching people. They want to teach people about upland bird hunting. So they have sporting clay range. They have 5 stands. They got all kinds of instructional areas. They do fly fishing instruction, and then they also handle all the fishing on our property, which we've got a lot of. We don't have any whitewater streams, but we got a lot of really, really, good stock ponds here. And then they also do live, bird hunting out here, dove, duck, quail, and pheasant on the property. So there's a lot to do. If you come here for golf, there's a lot more that you can do other than golf. You come here for a business meeting, or you come here for a wedding. This is just a great place to be entertained a lot of different ways.
David, before I let you go, let our listeners know, how can they get more information about the resort and then stay up to date with what's going on there, either on your website or over social media?
Yeah, so social media, my son-in-law is our director of marketing, so he's always sending things out. So Pursell Farms is the name of the resort itself. It's Pursell, FARMS. And then FarmLinks is the name of the golf course, which is also, it's one of our trademarks are the longhorn bulls out at the front entrance when you drive into the golf course. And so our icon, or our little logo on the shirt, it's a combination of a longhorn bull swinging a golf club, kind of like Bobby Jones would. So you got a longhorn bull wearing +4s, and it's just a really, really cool logo, and it's probably one of the best things I ever designed as far as the logo is concerned. But the best way to, if anybody's interested, and really highly recommend you at least look at it, is to go to our website, www.pursellfarms, Pursell farms.com, and it's got all kinds of information, photography, videos, and that's kind of a good source for people to learn about it. And it's got all our contact information on there.
Well, David, it's been great having you as part of the show. I hope you'll come back and join me again sometime. Keep us up to date with what's happening out there at Pursell Farms.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much for having me, and God bless.
Thank you, David. Same back to you and your family. Stay safe, my friend. All the best. That is David Pursell, Pursell, Pursell Farms, and then obviously FarmLinks, like you said, is the name of the golf course. Folks, you got to go online just to at least check out the place. I mean, as I was looking at the golf course and the different holes, and like you said, it's got all kinds of different names for what they've got going on out there. But it is one heck of a great looking golf course. I mean, it has to be, right? To be the number one golf course that you can play in the state of Alabama. Again, we all know about the Robert Trent Jones Trail and the many golf courses that they have and how wonderful those are. And to think that Pursell Farms leapfrogged over all of them to be the number one course in the state of Alabama, got to be special. It looks that way online. Hopefully I get the opportunity to go out there and play sometime, but you got to go check it out. Looks fantastic. All right, my friends, it is time for me to put a bow on this episode of Next on the Tee. My sincere thanks again go out to Tom Patri, Bob Ford, Tom Purtzer, and David Pursell for joining me tonight. Folks, please check out our website, nextonthetee.net, to keep up to date with what our guest schedule looks like. And we're going to be kicking off the month of August in style with 4 great guests, starting with Hal Sutton. He's going to be making a return visit with us. Hal's become a wonderful friend over the last couple of years. We'll also get a long overdue return visit from 2003 PGA champion Shawn Micheel. Top instructor Jason Hayes will be back with us. And speaking of great golf courses, Jason's home course, Buffalo Dunes, was named the 8th best municipal course in the country this year by Golf Magazine back in June. So we'll certainly be talking about that. Then we'll round out the show with Golf Digest Top 100 instructor Eric Johnson. You guys know he has been a great friend since the beginning of this show 8 seasons ago. So really looking forward to having him back as part of the show. So it's going to be a great one, folks. I hope you'll come back and be a part of the show with us. Folks, you can stream this show as a podcast on a number of great podcasting sites and apps like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify. Pandora is now jumped on board. iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Audio Boom, Player.fm, and Podcast.co. Folks, if you've got a favorite podcasting app, I'm sure we're on it. Just type in Next on the Tee in the search bar. You'll probably find us there. Folks, thank you again for choosing to listen to the show tonight. I really appreciate the fact that you continue to make Next on the Tee a part of your golfing content. Until next week, hit 'em straight, my friends.